In this episode of Zero Day Learner, I reflect on one of the deepest questions I have ever asked myself. What will we leave behind? My journey began with questions about religion, reincarnation, and what may happen after death. Along the way, I found myself thinking even more about the people who shaped my life. My father, whom I never truly knew, my mother, who carried our family through war and hardship, and my own children, whom I chose to stay with and love. I don't claim to have answers about reincarnation, heaven, or the spiritual world. I simply share the stories and experiences that have made me stop and think. Perhaps religions give people hope. Perhaps our questions help us grow. Perhaps the greatest legacy we leave behind isn't wealth or fame, but kindness, love, and the way we treat the people closest to us. A year or so ago, I wrote a book titled The Pure Golden Life Lessons. Though I'm not the sun, I chose to be the light. Those words continue to guide the way I hope to live. Not perfectly, but sincerely. My hope is simple: to love my family, to keep learning, to leave this world a little kinder than I found it. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm Thao. Welcome to Zero Day Learner. If this video encouraged you to reflect on your own life or your own family, I'd be honored if you subscribed and joined me on this journey of learning. Episode 11, Part 1. What will we leave behind? Hello, my name is Thao. Welcome to Zero Day Learner. Today I'd like to talk about something I've been thinking about recently. Not just religion, not just reincarnation, but what we leave behind. As I've watched videos from different religions and traditions, I've noticed that many of them ask similar questions in different ways. What happens after we die? Does the soul continue? Are we reborn? Do we go to heaven? Or does something else happen? I honestly don't know. I'm still learning. Recently, I watched several videos about Buddhism that made me think. One story was about a young boy in Bhutan. People believed he remembered a previous life and, while still very young, spoke about having been a Buddhist monk long ago. Another story described the belief that an enlightened monk, after completing his life's journey, may choose the conditions of a future life in order to continue helping others. I don't know whether these stories are true. I don't know how they should be understood. But they made me pause and ask myself questions I had never asked before. I'm not sure if I'm reincarnated, but a year or so ago, I wrote instructions for my own family about what I hope they will do after I die. I wanted my funeral to be simple. I wanted to make things easier for the people I love. The instructions say that if there is a next lifetime, please remember to bring your papers of origin, papers of marriage, papers of children, papers of health and wealth, papers of enjoying life. And if you become a leader, please love and support your community or your country. That's similar to what the monk said, writing your own future life. Then I remember something else. A spiritual reader once told me that, when she focused on me, she saw a wooden crate with a heart inside it. She also said she saw a young boy nearby. Later, when she described what she felt from me, she said she saw an endless blue sky filled with white clouds. I don't know what any of that means. Perhaps it shows or tells my written instructions for I wrote for my family. Perhaps it means nothing. Perhaps it was only a personal impression. Or perhaps it simply encouraged me to think more deeply about life. When I later heard a story about Buddhist monks placing sacred scriptures inside a wooden crate before a time of danger, I couldn't help noticing the similarity on the wooden crates. Was it only a coincidence? I honestly don't know. I'm not saying this is a coincidence that I may be reincarnated. I'm not saying these experiences prove anything. I'm not sure if anybody out there has had similar incidents. I'm only sharing why they made me stop and think. Sometimes life presents us with moments that don't fit neatly into our understanding. Instead of rushing to explain them, I've learned to let them remain questions. Not every mystery needs an immediate answer. Sometimes a mystery simply invites us to keep learning. whether or not there is reincarnation, whether or not we choose another life. One question feels more important to me. How should I live the life I have today? Perhaps that question is already enough to keep me learning for the rest of my life. Episode 11, Part 2. What will we leave behind? As I continued thinking about religion and life, I realized something. Perhaps one reason religions have existed for so long is that they give people hope. Hope that life has meaning. Hope that death is not the end. Hope that love continues in some way. Hope that today's suffering is not the final chapter. Whether those hopes are true, I honestly don't know. But I understand why people hold on to them. Then my thoughts turn to my own father. I never really knew him. He died when I was only 2 or 3 years old. Everything I know about him came from my mother, my relatives, and the stories people share with me. Some said he was a kind man. Some said he was a shaman. Some said he had prophetic gifts. Growing up without a father was not easy. There were times when I felt hurt. There were times when I wondered why he was gone. As a young man, I sometimes asked myself, why did he leave us behind? My mother carried 2 young children through war, hunger, and uncertainty. She never stopped loving us. Sometimes I wish my father could have been there beside her. As I grew older, those feelings slowly changed. Instead of asking only why he was gone, I began asking another question. What kind of father do I want to become? There were difficult times in my own marriage. There were moments when I thought about leaving. Life wasn't always easy. I told my children that I was asking myself, why did my father choose the easy way out and leave us behind with difficulties and a hard life, especially through the secret war in Laos with 2 young children and a single mom, and growing up wishing to have what others have: food, meat, fruits, or a regular family. As I'm growing older, I keep thinking about my father. I thought perhaps my father wanted us to find our own ways or our own purpose in life. Perhaps he may have protected us through the spiritual realm and directed us toward the USA. I thought I could follow in my father's footsteps, not to die, but to walk away from my family. And every time those thoughts of leaving came, another thought became even stronger. I'm not going to leave my children. I'm going to stay. I'll do my best to teach them right from wrong. One day, I told my children something that came from my heart. I said, even if I can't be the sun, I choose to be the light. I'll light for them until they find their own ways. I don't know if they will remember those words. I hope they do. Not because I expect to be a perfect father, but because I want them to know they were worth staying for. Today, when I think about my father, I no longer think only about my loss. I also think about his kindness. I think about the stories people told me. And I love him and quietly bless his soul to be healthy and at peace whenever I think of him. Whether he watches over us or not, I cannot say, but I hope he's found peace. Perhaps that is another kind of legacy. Not perfection, not having all the answers, but inspiring the next generation to become a little kinder, a little stronger, and a little more loving than the generation before. If I can do that for my own children, that will be enough. Episode 11, Part 3. What will we leave behind? As I grow older, I find myself thinking more and more about my mother. When I was younger, I didn't always understand her sacrifices. Sometimes I listened to other people instead of listening to her. I think I would be the one who caused her the most ache. I didn't know what I was doing, perhaps for her aches and my fame. I listened to others and left her. Though on the positive side, I left her with the most pain and aches. She told me that during that time, she was in her 60s or 70s. She didn't know what else to do for the pains and aches. She prayed to God, and she learned how to self-teach how to read and write so she could write to me and others. While she was in California and I moved to Wisconsin, she was able to write me a letter saying that she missed and loved me. I need to be careful while staying with the cousins. Sometimes I made choices that caused her worry and heartache. At the time, I didn't realize how much she carried for our family. Years later, she told me something that stayed with me. Looking back now, I realize that those simple words carried more love than many long speeches ever could. Today, she's in her 90s and lives with me. Every day, I cook for her and bring her meals. Sometimes I think about everything she carried through the secret war, through poverty, through fear, and through the long journey that finally brought us to America. Then I ask myself, how can I ever repay a mother for that? Perhaps I can't, but I can love her while she's still here. I can care for her with gratitude. I can thank her, not only with words, but with my actions. Today, all I can say is thank her, especially for every Mother's Day onward, and everything she has done for her children through thick and thin, through the secret war, spiritually and physically for her children. My children have also taught me something. There were times when life was difficult, and I wondered if I should leave. Sometimes I even said those words out loud. But later I made another decision. I told them, I'm not going to be like my dad. I'm staying. I told them, I will not leave you. I didn't notice much in that moment. But a day or two later, I could feel the difference. The house seemed lighter. Everyone seemed more relaxed, happier. That taught me something. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give the people we love isn't money. It isn't success. It's simply letting them know, I'm here. A year or so ago, I wrote a book titled The Pure Golden Life Lessons. Though I'm not the sun, I chose to be the light. I gave a copy to my children. They laughed and said it was embarrassing. Maybe they're right. Or maybe one day, when they're older, they'll understand why I wrote those words. I don't expect to shine like the sun. I don't expect to change the whole world. But if I can bring a little light to my family, if I can leave them with kindness, with honesty, with love, then I think my life has already been meaningful. Perhaps that is the greatest legacy any of us can leave behind. Not wealth, not fame, but a family that knows they were loved. Thank you for listening. I'm Thao. If these conversations encourage you to pause and think about your own life, I'd be honored if you subscribe to Zero Day Learner. Take good care of yourself. Take good care of your family. And if you can, be someone's light.